Freddie Fourie on his 125 Kawasaki took the early lead in the 200 motorcycle category, but Peter Wrigglesworth on his Honda, William Gillett on a Kawasaki, Jeffrey Voluter on a 125 Honda, and Gray Brett on his Elna Fox Kawasaki 125 were roaring down the track behind him. Trouble for Rick Revo, gets his 200cc Kawasaki going again, but at the front, Peter Wrigglesworth on 201 was catching Freddie Fourie at a rapid rate of knots. Behind him, like an angry swarm of bees, the field was fighting their own battles. Piet Pienaar on his 125 Honda felt just how tough the going was. But in a more serious incident, two of the back markers rode into each other on the very fast uphill straight, and with the medics having to come out to attend to the injured riders, the race had to be stopped. Fortunately, no serious injuries. On the restart, a tough battle for second position immediately developed between Gray Brett on his Elna Fox Kawasaki 125 and Jason Newton on his 200cc Honda. As they fought their way through the back markers, Peter Wrigglesworth on his Honda extended his lead and took the checkered flag. So it was Wrigglesworth from Brett and Newton, with Piet Pienaar, William Gillett, Rian van der Kerk, Sean Nel and Gavin Cowley making up the minor placings. In the open motorcycle category, the leaders quickly caught up with the back markers, and the battle for victory had the large crowd on their feet. Ryan Hunt on his Shell Racing Honda 500 tried his utmost to get past the KTM of Michael Trussler, while both of them were trying to catch Gary Peterson on his Brasco Kawasaki 250. Peterson on number 260 sliced through the slower bikes like a hot knife through butter, while Hunt and Trussler had to do exactly the same to stay in touch with the leader. Hunt already had a win earlier in the day and was determined to use the advantage of his bigger 500 machine to repeat the performance. Having disposed of the back markers and of Michael Trussler, Hunt now set off to catch Peterson. The 500cc Shell Honda had the edge on the faster parts of the circuit, while Peterson's Brasco Kawasaki was more nimble through the twisty bits and around the slower competitors. Peterson had the bit between his teeth, as he never even seemed to tap off, knowing very well that to do so for even 1 second, Hunt would be right with him like a flash. Hunt was riding like a man possessed, but every time he got close, it seemed as if back markers got in his way. Peterson was worried, looking back to see just where Hunt was, and the answer was, "I'm right here, mate." Gary Peterson could clearly hear the roar of the 500cc Shell Honda behind him, but that made the highly experienced multiple motocross champion on his Brasco Kawasaki even more determined to hold on to his lead. The wide lines these two riders were taking through every corner was an indication of just how close to the edge both of them were going. Peterson muscled his way past Panasonic teammates Duncan Krause and John Blichnout, successfully placing them between himself and Ryan Hunt, who has also won numerous national motocross titles. But 2 corners later, Hunt got past and once again set off in hot pursuit of the leader. There just seemed to be no breathing space, because now Peterson had to contend with some more back markers. This gave Hunt the chance to close the gap again, and as he came up on the group, he used the power under his right hand to glide past and get Peterson firmly in his sights again. On the edge, motorcycle racing. This was the last lap, and remembering that Hunt won the previous race by catching and passing Michael Trussler just before the flag, Peterson threw all caution to the wind and just kept that throttle open as wide as it would go. But his lead was big enough, and it must have been with great relief that Peterson crossed the line less than a second ahead of Ryan Hunt. So, a first win of the year in the Total Super Series for Gary Peterson, ahead of Hunt, Trussler, Peter Wrigglesworth, Wayne Smith, Ian Topless, Greg Aspinall and Alan Julian.
I had a demon start there, because I knew that the 500 would definitely be a problem. And, you know, like on short sprint races, it's a lot easier to ride a 500 because it's not as demanding in 10 minutes as what it was in 20 minutes. I'm on a 250, but I can't make excuses, you know. I kept hearing Ryan's 500, and I kept catching the back markers very quickly into the race. I was just relying on him getting caught with the back markers. All I can say is thanks to my sponsors, Brasco and to Kawasaki, for helping me. And I'm looking forward to the next one, and obviously to Total for sponsoring the series. I think it's excellent for off-road racing.
From 2 wheels to 4, and in the main race in the Super Quad category, a 3-way battle quickly developed between Evan Hutchinson on number 70, Clint Buckham on 77, and Chris Jarvis on 58, all of them on 200cc Yamaha Blaster machines. On these machines, the rider has to counterbalance the lateral cornering forces, almost like a sidecar rider, making it especially tricky to control under racing conditions. Another tricky bit is that these quads tend to drop their noses when crossing a jump, so the rider must pull backwards in the air to stop the machine from nosediving and throwing him over the top. Hutchison was grimly holding onto his lead, trying every trick in the book to keep Jarvis and Buchan behind him. This time, Jarvis slingshot himself past the leader. Jarvis shut the door emphatically in the face of the winner of the previous race, forcing Hutchinson to check his line through the hairpin right-hander. Hutchison tried a different line through the left-hander, but the attempt only allowed Buchan to get closer. Now it was Chris Jarvis who was determined to hold onto his lead, taking advantage of the fact that Hutchison and Buchan were keeping each other busy. But Hutchison doesn't take defeat lying down and immediately set off to catch up with Jarvis and fly his own flag from the front. Hutchison was clearly much faster through the left-hander at the bottom of the circuit, and he used that advantage to force his way into the lead around the outside of Chris Jarvis. And that's the way they stayed, with Hutchison taking his second win of the day ahead of Jarvis and Buchan, with Ricardo Janukaru, Derek Robertson, Aubrey Kavanagh, Clayton Duplessis and Glenn Wilmot filling the minor places. Evan, it seems like you've started the new season the way you ended last season.
Yeah, it's been a good start for us. We couldn't ask for anything more. Bike's going well, the team's running smoothly. Yeah, it's been good for us for the first race, yeah.
The circuit very quick?
Fantastic. The surface is great. They've prepared this track fantastic. We couldn't have asked for anything better for Super Series, yeah.
The Pro Quad category has always been the domain of Northwest farmer Wikus van Deventer, but after the first national off-road event of the season, the Queen Motorspares 400, this situation seemed to have changed. Not only did Christo van der Merwe beat Van Deventer in that event, but to crown it all, here he was ahead of Van Deventer in the main event of the Total Super Series meeting at Kyalami. Even worse for Van Deventer, he was lying fifth behind this group, made up of Mark Breckel, Jacques Struwig and Paul Breckel. Van der Merwe on his Team Joburg Yamaha Banshee finished second behind Van Deventer in the first race of the day, and he must have been thrilled to see the defending champion so far behind. The Breckel brothers and Struwig had a great scrap for second position, but this allowed Wikus van Deventer on his Jojo Tanks Honda 330 to close in on them. Struwig on his 250 Suzuki moved up to second in front of the grandstand. Lots of oil smoke from Struwig's exhaust, and as he pulled away, Mark Breckel slowed suddenly while Van Deventer moved menacingly closer to Paul. The exhaust smoke from Struwig's 250 Suzuki didn't seem to indicate a serious problem, only gushing out in the corners, but a far more serious threat was Wikus van Deventer, who got past the stricken Mark Breckel. Van der Merwe knew that he couldn't relax for a second because Van Deventer is used to winning and wasn't about to give up this habit. That's Christo van der Merwe leading, smoking Jacques Struwig in second position, Paul Breckel in third, and there's Wikus van Deventer rapidly catching up. But catching up is one thing, passing completely another. Over the short distance of the race in Total Super Series, Van Deventer simply didn't have enough time to catch the first three and had to settle for fourth position. Christo van der Merwe took a very well-deserved victory on his Team Joburg Yamaha Banshee, followed by Jacques Struwig on his Suzuki 250, Paul Breckel on his Brasco Phillips Rotax, and Van Deventer on his Jojo Tanks Honda 330. In the super special category, Jackie Joubert was having a field day, having won the first race of the day.